Hi everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about prototyping and your next project, which is all about surfacing. Surfacing is a part of the product design process where you focus specifically on the surface of your object. So exactly how curved or flat, or how those the curves and flats relate to one another or connect together. That is a study in and of itself with every object. How do you get that to be really nice? We're going to be looking at a few different prototyping materials today. These materials are expanded styrene foam. So this is like styrofoam. It's pretty lightweight. You can cut it with a hot knife, which basically melts the material as you're cutting through it. It has some limitations. Certain types of paints and solvents will melt this as well. So when you use a spray paint on it, it'll just eat right into it. You need to use a water-based paint in order to solve that problem. Fairly inexpensive usually, but this is an example of a denser material. Blick Art Supply sells this. So this costs more than your average styrofoam that you see, the white stuff that you see in packaging. This is a nice material to use. It's called balsa foam. This is a high density version. They also make lighter density versions. This is made with balsa wood dust that's been bound together into a block. Really nice. It doesn't have grain to it. Reasonably inexpensive, but not super cheap. And because it's non-toxic, it's a friendlier material to work with. Does not have grain, so when you sand it and work with it, you won't have wood fibers popping out at you. And lastly is urethane prototyping foam. This particular stuff is called Wren-Shape. It's a high density material. It's pretty expensive. If you go on Amazon and look for it, you'll find a block that's like 11 by 16 or so. It's like $100. So this is actually a valuable object, as is the second block, which we'll be using later in the semester. This is even higher density and a little bit more valuable than this stuff. Pretty cool. There's an inexpensive version of this, and probably if you've ever seen like fake flowers put into a foam material, that's a very inexpensive, lightweight version of this same kind of product. Not used by engineers or product designers as much, but still, a viable material if you have the right kind of application. So we're going to be working with this material for your surfacing project, and I've already glued a stick into it, so it's got something that's reasonably robust and you can hold as we're going through each phase of the process. To work with this material, we're going to need a couple different things. We're going to need a space which you can make dusty. The dust from this goes everywhere, so ideally you'd be outside. I'm here in my studio, that's reasonably safe. Next, I've given you guys a few different tools to be able to start the first phase, carving your object. This is a little saw that I made for you all. It's just using a jigsaw blade. If you ever need to replace the blade or change to a different one, you can cut this little zip tie off. I gave you another zip tie, and stick a different blade inside it. It has a little plug that pops out to be able to change it out. And I made this case, the blade part, the teeth, go into the open area. The teeth go up if the slot is down. So that way the teeth don't grab on the slot and it should click into place. That's because those blades are pretty sharp. I don't want you cutting yourselves. The other tool we're going to use are these files. Now, ordinarily we'd be using like a bandsaw in the shops to cut this a little bit more aggressively. I ran under the assumption that we would not have access to the shops. Let's use a half-round file. These will cut a little bit more slowly than maybe you'd like, but better too slow than too fast. Again, you only have one block of this material to work with, so take it slow to begin with and get a feel for it before you make more aggressive moves. So as a material, this stuff cuts really easily. And you can see I can cut away at it really effectively. Now, this as a tool you can use to cut straight into it like you would with a regular saw, but you can also use those teeth there, kind of like a file to be able to more aggressively remove material. So this really has two kind of primary functions in my mind. And then after you start carving it, with that and you get your shape roughed out, I particularly like this half-round file. You can see it's got a kind of an arc shape to it. This will then allow you to smooth out those contours and get a much more curvilinear surface. You need to find a space to be able to carve in. You're going to take your time and carve this shape. and try and generate as smooth and curvilinear an object as you can.